All right, so in skill 3, we're looking at relations and functions. And one of the important things that we're interested in with relations and functions is to identify the domain and range. In a previous problem, we had a list of an ordered pair. A relation was given to us as a set of ordered pairs, and here it's given to us in the form of a graph. It's still ordered pairs, there's just infinitely many of them, too many of them to list. The ordered pair associated with that point is negative 2 comma 0. And say the ordered pair, if there's a point that's easy to read off of the graph, say like this one, 2, negative 3. And even the ones that are not easy to read, that are fractional or decimal values, there we can represent those points on the graph as an ordered pair as well. So it wants me to describe, for all of the points that are on this graph, it wants me to describe the x's. That's what the domain is. So when I look to this endpoint, to the far left of the graph, I see an arrow, and the problem with the graph is it gives me two pieces of information at once. It gives me information about the x coordinates, but at the same time it gives me information about the y coordinates. When I'm describing the domain, I need to focus on just the x coordinates and ignore the up and down of this graph and only consider the left and right as I move through this graph. So when I see this arrow on the left, I need to think of it as two pieces of information. It's telling me that as you move to the left, you're also going down. And over here on the right, this arrow is telling me as you're moving to the right, you're also moving up. So with domain, I'm only interested in left and right movement. So when I come in for small values, when I come in from the left and I hit this arrow, I know that I'm coming in from negative infinity. So on the left-hand side, there is no smallest value. This is going to the left forever. And as I come in and trace along this graph and I think about the x-coordinates, see all these points I project down, this point has an x-coordinate of negative 1. Well, even though there's this vertical jump, remember x's is just left and right. As I move to the right here, there's negative 1 is on the graph, is a point. Negative 1 is in the domain because there's a point on the graph that has an x coordinate of negative 1. Now, this negative 1, 0 is not on the graph because that hollow dot, but the point immediately adjacent to it is, and all these points as I move to the right are definitely on the graph, and the x values are increasing because I'm moving to the right. I get over here to this arrow, and I've moved from left to right, and even though I had this jump, there were no jump in the x values, and the domain is all real numbers. Now, when I come in and describe the range, I'm thinking up and down, and I need to just focus on the y values. I'm not thinking about moving left and right on the graph. So even though this point right here looks to be a minimum point, remember over here, this arrow, this extends forever, and which means I'm only interested in the up or down portion of that graph. This is going down. So actually, I'm coming in, when I come at this graph from below, I'm coming below from negative infinity. And as I move up along this graph, all these points, I reach this point, which at first might appear to be a maximum point of 1. But remember that over here, this point, 1 is also in the range. Now over here, I don't know, it's some decimal number, say 1.3, I don't know. I'm really interested in that y value of 1. So here, 1 was in the range, 1 is still in the range, even though I'm now on this portion of the graph, and all these points are above that, and it's continuing to go up to infinity. So even though I had this jump in the graph, there was overlap in the y values. So this portion, the y portion of these coordinates were also the y portion. These points here have the same y coordinates, so the same height above the x-axis. Anyway, the domain and range for this problem is all real numbers, and hopefully you can see that. Let's take a look. Well, do I have a next one? I'll do these on other videos. Hope that helps. Talk to you later.